All right. Golf Clash has announced the winter major for 2020, and we've got 9 brand new holes. So it's always interesting when they come out with brand new holes because it tends to be a little glitchy. And so hopefully, when they put the holes out, hopefully they'll be out tonight. Today's Wednesday. It says Thursday, but I think that's Thursday for usually Wednesday night in the U.S. We start getting them. Thursday for those that are on the a day ahead of us. So on all of these holes, normally my MO when we come and we've got brand new holes, and I'd highly recommend this, is when you're trying shots on these new holes, if you're going to use a 3 power ball just so that you can test out distances and stuff, it's always best to bring a Kingmaker, or excuse me, a Titan. They're easier to replenish, and it gives you a good indication of whether or not you're going to need more curl, or if a Kingmaker or a different ball is going to be a little bit better. But the one big thing when I go to these new holes is that if I'm trying to shoot out into this area, or this area, or whatever it happens to be, and I end up in the rough, don't move your ball in a forward direction. Put yourself right back out to where you honestly think that you would have landed without making your position any better, because this is the shot that you're really looking for. Coming in from the rough over here, like if you end up in the rough or you end up in the sand out here, this is great information, because you know that, hey, if I end up in the sand out here, I can still get on. That's good information. Or if I end up in the rough over here, I can't get on, but if I end up in the rough over here, I can. So that's all great information. But what you really want to know is what it looks like from the fairway trying to put the ball in the cup. So when you're on these new holes and you're out here practicing, if you end up in the rough, it's not a big deal. Unfortunately, they're going to be in T5. We're not going to be able to play friendlies with our teammates. We'll have to go into T5 to get these done, but hopefully we can get some pretty good practice on it. So hole number 1 is going to be a par 4. Let me go back. Maybe. Let's go check them out again. Hold on. Dang rookies. All right, so hole number 1 is a par 4. And hole number 2, we've got a par 3. Fairly straightforward. It doesn't look like, at least on this hole, there may be a rough bump coming in here, but normally these are not the type of rough bumps that I like, because our angle, let's pan back a little bit. So our angle when we're coming from the tee box to the flagpole, coming out to here, we'd have to bring some right-hand side spin, which isn't a big deal, but when you're hitting on these types of rough areas, everything to the right is fairway. So if you mess up to the right, you're sunk. And the rough gets deeper the farther you go to the left. So if you hit to the left, in many cases, you're sunk. This looks like a fairly straightforward par 3, however. So we'll have to see when we get out there what the elevations look like. These photos right here never accurately represent what kind of elevation we've got. Wow. That's some serious stuff right there for that par 5. Wow. I'm just wondering, if we go distance-wise, this fairway is completely out of play, because whatever the distance is from here up to the green is definitely a lot more than it is from here to here. So we're probably looking at our landing area being somewhere in this fairway. I'm not sure how much distance we can get off the tee, whether we could come out to here and try and bring it over to this fairway. But it looks like this is definitely going to be the fairway that we're going to be landing on. It'll just depend on our distances, whether we are coming up here to the top and then trying to come over, or whether we can get down into this area. If we can touch this fairway over here, if we can make it to this fairway with our drive, it would be possible to get over to this fairway. Maybe. We'll have to see. This definitely looks like there's some serious elevation movement on this. Going from the top down to the bottom. I don't know. That looks like a big par 5. Big. 4. Hole number 4 is another par 3. Once again, it doesn't look like there's any kind of rough bump that we're going to be doing on this. So on this particular par 3, look how steep the sand drops down on the edges there. I'm definitely going to want to try and get somewhere here in front of that sand and go straight at it. We'll have to see what kind of distances we get, whether these are wood par 3s. This looks like it's probably going to be a long iron par 3, where we can come from the front tee and go straight at it, landing somewhere from on this line, landing somewhere in this area right here, trying to run it straight up there. I'm definitely not a fan on these of trying to bounce over the sand to try and get up here to get on. Trying to get either in front of the sand or off to the right and then bring it back to the cup. Once again, it's hard to tell on these photos whether we've got huge elevation changes or not, but I'm sure there is. They mentioned it in when they posted it that there was some big elevation changes on this course. Now this par 4 right here is definitely interesting. So depending on where our distances are, if we can get out into this area, it's possible that we could get over and at least get out in front so that we've got a short chip to get on. This fairway here is pretty much pisses the greenskeepers off because they have to take care of it. Now this may be the place to go if you're hitting from the third, even possibly the second tee. But it does look like you'd probably have pretty good approach just feeding it down in here if you're playing from one of the back tees. But from rookie, it'll just depend on whether or not we can get our ball over this chasm in order to get in front of it. But that does look like is how it's going to play. Hole number 5. Another par 5, another link style par 5 hitting to pads. And I'm assuming that our way that we're going to want to go is to end up on this fairway pad, either bouncing off of this one and trying to get over. It'd probably be easier to bounce off of this one to get over than it would be to try and bounce off this one and then bring it back up. We may be able to just reach this one depending on the ball that we have. If we can get out into this area with this sand right here, it may be problematic, but it might be possible to get over there just depending on how it's laid out. But this right here definitely looks like the fairway that we're going to be driving to. Hole number 7, another par 4. So it looks like we're going to have 2 options here. We can either land in this area here and then feed it up to the cup, or we can try and get up in here so that we can get some downward roll and feed up into here. It doesn't look like it's going to be possible to get from this area anywhere in a positive direction. So it does look like it's either going to be up here or down here in this area right here that we're going to be landing. It'll be curious to see what the distances are on these, because it's always deceiving when you look at the images and then when you get out there on the course as far as distances go, what you can and cannot do. But with all of the movement that's up here at the top, this looks like it's definitely going to be like a rock or a potential spam. All 5. Where are we at? It definitely looks like it's going to be a rock or an apocalypse or something that's got some movement so that you can get the ball to move in that direction. All right, hole number 8, another par 3. Once again, I don't see a very viable rough bump here. This definitely looks like, at least from the front tee, where it's just going to be a straight up landing zone up here in the front and trying to move straight up to the cup, checking for whatever our elevations are going to be. And I'm not going to worry too much about elevation. Like if you're out there on the course and you're trying to zoom in on your ring set to make wind adjustments and you can't get close to your ring set, then we're probably going to end up making a wind adjustment. And so I will typically, on those where I can't get close to my ring set, I'll typically start at 20 to 30 just to see where I'm at. But normally when I'm playing new holes, and I've had a lot of success on new holes, my typical MO is to just go out there and play max numbers. If I am in mid club or minimum club, play my clubs appropriately, but not worry too much about elevation. And typically I start off playing max numbers, even though I may be in mid or minimum, because what happens is if you're uphill and you're shooting downhill and you're at, let's say, min club versus max, if you're using your max number, even though you're a minimum club, you're doing a wind adjustment. That's an additional move. So, and there was a couple tournaments ago where we had several of the par threes that we were at minimum wood, but we were hitting max number because we were actually adding on wind, and it equated out to about a 50% wind adjustment. And so we'll have to see what kind of elevation stuff that we have. This little island right here is definitely for Ricky out of play. This is once again where they hold wedding receptions, and it pisses the greenkeepers off that they have to keep mowing it. In from the back tees, maybe. Doubtful. More than likely they could get up into this area and feed it back up, but it doesn't look... Another big par 5. Is this hole 9? It is hole 9. Wow. I'd be curious to see what the distance is. It definitely looks like on this hole that this is going to be where our first bounce is going to be. Once again, this looks like it's completely out of play, and that we're not going to be using that in order to get up on the green in 2, probably from this area, and it may be possible to get over to one of these 2, but these last 2 are going to be a second shot situation. If we're using, let me think about distances here. We might be able to make it to this fairway right here, but more than likely we're going to end up somewhere up in this fairway area. It'll be curious to see how these par 5s with this link style how the distance goes when we're out on the course. I know the flyby gives you a little bit of that kind of info. It kind of gives you a little bit more of an understanding of how long the course is, but we really won't know until we get out there. And so with all of the stuff, like the holes we've looked on, I'll go back to what I was talking about at the very beginning of the video. If you're out on one of these holes and you're trying to hit to an area, it's really important that if you miss and you end up out in the rough or you end up in any trouble out here, just shoot it back to where you're at. You may lose, that's fine. We're out here. It's really important to practice and to know your distances. So if you're in the sand out here, can you get on from the sand out here with the clubs that you have in your bag? And if the answer is no, you want to make sure you write that on your notes. Like, the drive is dead serious, one shot at a time. We cannot afford to get in any trouble on the drive because you can't get back up. You can't recover. All right, that was just a little bit of a better look than the picture that Golf Clash gives us in the game of what the holes are going to look like. Hopefully everybody has a great time. And they say they're going to be, for Ricky, they're going to be in Tour 5. And like I said, they should fire up, if you live in the U.S., they should fire up tonight. And I'll get on and see if, as soon as you get that update, you'll know that they've done something. And hopefully we won't have too many glitches this week going into the tournament. And as I get these holes recorded, I will start posting some holes and put up a playthrough once I get to play them a few times. All right. Thanks for watching.